Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this WSIS thematic workshop on a very specific issue, which is like an edge research issue in the field of the medical field, accessibility field. It means several fields, and the name of this workshop is a bit complicated. The acronym is ERICA, E-R-I-C-A. Electroencephalographic-based resuscitatio index computer-aided. And I'm very glad and I'm very honored to present you the speakers for the workshop here tonight. We have Mr. Dr. Roberto Mancin here on my right from the Center of Disability of the Padova University. Padova University is one of the most ancient university in Italy and maybe in the world as well, who is going to present the ERICA study, a study about mutism in pediatric intensive care unit. And on my far right, Dr. Gianluca Moro, also from the Center of Disability of Padova University, which will give a technical overview of this project. And then we have online as a remote panelist from Hamburg, Professor Vito De Feo. Welcome, Professor. I know you can hear us. From the Zentrum für Molekulare Neurobiologie from Hamburg. I'm sorry, my German is very bad, but I hope you can forgive me. And I'm very honored and very glad that we could host this workshop here, even if the subject is maybe a new subject for WSIS, I'm sure, and is very research-based. But we thought that it would be very good to have a WSIS a window of opportunity, and to present to the WSIS participants a project that could find that is very important to WSIS here. And you could find new opportunity, new maybe partnership in other countries. Why not? So it's my great pleasure that I'm going to give the floor to Dr. Roberto Mancin. He will speak firstly in Italian. I will then interpret it into English. I'm not a professional interpreter, but I will do my best to do that. And then he will present afterwards a first presentation. Then you will have a video, and again, a second presentation. So here we are. I'll give the floor to Mr. Roberto Mancin. I will ensure the interpretation.
Thank you, Alexandra. I will try to speak in English. Okay. So.
Sorry.
Sorry, but my English is very, very few, so I don't understand what you have said.
It was just a suggestion to maybe speak, to have a workshop in Italian, but the three participants behind said that in English would be the choice. Okay. Anyway, it was a joke.
Okay. Okay. We talk about ERICA, Electroencephalographic Resuscitation Index Computer Aided. It is a study about mutism in pediatric intensive care unit. Now, I explain to you the basic of child-computer interaction. In this slide, there is a computer, a baby computer, and a little student. His name is Paddy. Now let's start the computer working. The computer puts its output to the world by internet. The output of computer go into the body of child, and he capture it with his sensory system, and he send to his brain, to his free will, and he decided to act a motor action. And then the motor action is the output of the body, and the output go through internet and return to the computer. This cycle is normal child-computer interaction, human-computer interaction. The problem is when, if child are very, very young, for example, my sons that are 3 years old, they can use a computer, but they are very, very happy to use a tablet like that. I will show you. And when there is a problem in the body of the child, and we mute the connection from his free will and his body, and this entire mute situation becomes a mute of his output, and a mute, stop please, a mute in input to the tablet. What can we do? A computer scientist like me and Gianluca is to bypass the motor problem and to send the data directly from the brain. That problem is called the first inch problem. We say sometime about the last mile problem, but now it's no more a problem last mile, because we have a lot of technicians works about it, but it's a very big problem to make data from free will to go out data from brain if you can use your body or to talk. That is a very, very big problem. It's possible to capture binary data. It's not possible to, if I think flower, to capture a flower. But if I think yes or not, I change the activity of my brain. It is possible very, very slowly, in about 5 minutes, I can understand if my brain is thinking yes or not. So it's very, very slow, this first inch. But it's possible to use it to use a computer, a tablet. So in this slide I summarize the situation. Internet, the body of the child, sensory, free will, first inch, and tablet. Tablet use a particular application called the adaptive and augmentative serious game. There are games for the child. If I say to a child to use a computer to speak, the child say, no, I want to play. But if I give child a game, a computer game, the child say, oh, okay, I want to use it. So we use the electroencephalographic to capture data and the stereoscale we use a stereoscale to give to the child the need to communicate, to live. Next. Okay. So ERICA is a study about mutism in pediatric intensive care unit. It is about access to assistive augmentative stereoscale, SG, by children who can't hear who can hear but cannot talk. Mutism is a quite a rare condition in child. It is due to medical problem. For example, I have a tracheotomy or I am intubated and it's not opportune to speak, but I can hear. This is the more frequent problem in PICO, but it's very little because after some days after the removal of the tube, there are no problem to talk. Problem bigger is selective mutism. Is the inability to speak, but sometimes when a child goes to the hospital, is very afraid about medical stuff, so is very afraid for his dollar, for his pain, so he stay. He don't speak. He stay silent. But I will talk about a very, very great problem. This locked-in status, also called akinetic mutism. It is for problem voiceless and paralyzed, but conscient. There is also a state more hard, very, very hard, is called the complete locked-in status. And when you are in complete lock-in, you can move never. It's impossible to understand if you are conscient, if you are alive. Now, in the world, when for example, after a lateral sclerosis amyotrophic intervenal stage, you are in clear status. But it's not possible to understand if there is a conscious activity or it is vegetative. Next one, the stage harder is brain death. Next one. I'm interested about that problem. That's very, very rare, unusual problem because in August 92, for a stupid bicycle incident, I went in coma. Next. I summarized the story of my coma, but of typical coma. The first days you are in a deep coma, very, very deep. After a few days you open your eyes. This phase is called arousal. Now begins the awareness. there are no reflex moments. You enter in a cold phase 0, where there is the inability to answer yes, no. Then there is a phase 1, where there is the ability to answer yes, not. When you are in this phase 1, you go out from the intensive care unit. You stay for some days in hospital, you go out of hospital, and after a long period, 1 year or more, there is a good recovery. It's not always that, but in nearly every friend of mine who went in coma go through these stages. Next. In this graph, I use a graph from works of Laurier. There is a graph with cognitive and motor responsive. It begins with coma, and after some days after eye opening, there is a vegetative unresponsive status. Now begins the awareness. It's possible to respond to command or non-reflex moment. In this phase, there is a minimal responsive. After this, the period begins communication, then severe disability, moderate disability, and good recovery. So it's very interesting the part from coma and communication. It's called phase 0. My works, my study, is to try to help the child in phase 0 to communicate, to say, I'm alive, I can't communicate, but I'm here. To know that is very, very useful for the quality of life of his parents, because for a parent to know that your child is listening to you, is not in a vegetative state, and it's very useful for the medicine staff, because they know they are not working with a body in a vegetative state, but with a child that listen to them. Next. No, it's very, very hard to understand that, because it's very, very new to understand. So I made a video, a simulation, to understand what is possible to do. Can you start the video? It is about communication. Play. Play, okay. To communicate is very important in our life. We use communication every time. We use write, we talk with the phone, we use word for work, use word with our child. When we are using a computer, a book, to talk with our parents, with our friends, we talk every time. It's very important to talk, to laugh with our friends. But sometimes happens something of wrong, and the light of our speech stop. So that is a simulation of a person in a stuporous post-coma state. Is not wake, he can work, he can talk, because he has also a tube in his mouth to eat. But he is thinking, he has a problem. He has a problem. I am a medical staff member. I can't understand what is the problem. So I decided to use a electroencephalographic system that can capture what he wants to tell. Not he want to see I'm cold, but he look at the screen. When he look at what he want to say, want to tell me, his brain make a variation of his status. Gianluca will explain it very well. For example, now it's very, very slow, this method, but in an intensive care unit, you have not to talk about Divina Commedia, but you have to talk I'm cold. For example, now I'm cold. Ho freddo, I'm cold. So I understand that he wants I have this augmentative serious game here. Is possible
Sorry, we didn't have the special cable to connect, but maybe you can come here and see it if you want, or whatever. We don't have the special adapter since you're hardly tree. Okay, sorry, stanno venendo qua vicino, così lo vedono. Okay. So this is a kind of game that the kids use to communicate, correct?
Yes, yes. In pediatric intensive care unit.
Okay. In the pediatric intensive care unit. Okay.
Now, it is like a game. There are level 1, level 2, level 3. So if child begins with level 1 and he is good, he go to level 2 and to level 3. But the level 1, the first one, is good for a 3 years child. Okay. Let's go to level 1. There are some you can so the child with a mouse, Bluetooth, or using a blink of eyes, or maybe use his brain can go, and when you want to say something, you choose that. It's very, very simple, but Another important thing that, for example, this is a photo of a dad. I wish we understand that, for example, if the child is from Morocco and show you a father that is like you, he say, it's not my father. My father has a different color of the skin. So I can make a photo to the father because that is a photograph, and to use the photo of his father. Another problem, and is in pediatric intensive care unit, it's not possible to carry brothers, little brothers, or pets. So the parent can make a photo to brothers and to use it for a game to
make company.
Make company.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Is it available on your site?
Yes, it is open source. It is on the web.
Open source. On the web.
I will give the link.
Pardon me.
Everything will be on the web. Yes?
Yeah, I will.
The next one. Okay. Why we are interested in pediatric in evolutive age 0-20 years? These things are good also for adults, but are better in young people because brain plasticity is bigger in a child than in adults. And it is assumed that the younger is the patient, the more severe and potentially irreversible are traumatic effects. In phase 0, awareness level is variable with time. So a computer-aided index is a very important tool to evaluate awareness level in pediatric intensive care units many times during the day. The level of consciousness of a post-coma child or adult is very fluctuating. So I've asked something to him at 6 o'clock. Maybe he can understand. But if I ask the same question after 5 hours, after a few times, maybe that is no more able to understand because it's fluctuating. It's important to do the measurement a lot of time in the day. If you want to listen to the dev, SOS, the aim of the project is not help a child to talk about him, but only to say SOS. We need only one bit. SOS. Hello, I'm live. Okay. Finished. My English was... Thank you.
Thank you very much, Roberto. I'm a bit less formal today because we are less. Well, I have to say that I'm very honored to hear all this because a person it could be any of us that we have an accident, car accidents, we go down to the stairs, whatever, and then we go to a coma status. This can happen every day, and to any of us. And a person that has suffered this incident and is back, not only back to life, but has kept studying on how it was before, I think is very, not only courageous, but very brave, and he can really see as an example for other people to do the same. So I'm very, very honored to have Mr. Roberto Mancin here with us. And I will give now the floor to Dr. Gianluca Moro, who will give a technical overview of the project. So, Mr. Gianluca Moro, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. My presentation is a technical overview about one of the possible device which will be the background of to make possible what Roberto described. The core device we're speaking about, that is the goal of our project, is an open and low-cost solution for EEG monitoring to be used in a pediatric ICU. Before going in details about the project, I'd like to spend some words about what EEG is. In the next slide, we see something in the center. When we want to acquire an EEG signal, this is the situation we are in. We know that our brain is producing some type of signal, of electric signal, but there are many types of signal. The signal are enclosed in our head, so they are in a box which hide the signal. So we see something like this figure, which we know gives us a message, but we have no idea what the message is. If we try with various possible techniques to improve the signal, we can see in the next slide that we can see a little better. And continuing to work on with electronics, with software elaboration, we see even better signal until we reach a very clear, in an ideal world, a signal with no noise, which is in reality impossible. But let's say that in an ideal situation, we get the perfect signal. When we got the perfect signal, we still have a big problem. Our mind tries to communicate, works in a way, produces some patterns that we need to interpret. We here have an image, which is a very clear image, but we need to understand the code that to understand the meaning of the image. It's the same for the EEG. We can see the next image. There have been many years, many decades of study about EEG acquisition and interpretation, mainly with professional setup. What makes a setup, we can say, professional is the ability to acquire a better signal, low noise, a good software signal analysis to detect the information that we gather from our mind. In the last years, some years or so, we have seen that in the market, in the consumer electronic market, there are some products that are the same, that use the same principle of a professional instrumentation, but it is devoted to the consumer market. It's very small, very cheap, and obviously it's a very low quality. So we have, we can see, two different situations: a professional equipment and a consumer equipment, and a professional and a consumer application. Up to now, we used obviously professional equipment for professional application, and we are starting to use consumer devices for consumer application. At the moment, the device we saw in the previous slide are sold for the video game market. So it is a field where there is some necessity to have a feedback, but not very precise. The other diagonal, that is the use of professional instrument for consumer application, obviously is a nonsense. But the field we are working in is the upper right corner. That is, can we use consumer devices for professional application? And when we mean consumer, we mean to use low-cost device, and with professional we mean to use them in a professional environment, in a medical environment. We can see in the next slide the goal of our project is to use this device in a pediatric intensive care unit, and to use this device for continuous bedside EEG monitoring. So we need some device with a medical validation, so quite a good quality, but they must be available for each patient, and so they should be low cost. We see in the next slide the specific characteristic of this device should be dry sensor technology to have an easy setup and a comfortable setup for the patient. Typically, professional EEG monitoring system have a very cumbersome head setup, which is very difficult to keep up for long hours. And the other important request is that this monitoring system must be very easy to use, because it must be usable by a nurse, but it should hopefully be usable even by relatives. We mean usable, that is, to give the relatives the input to know when to call for a physician and to get on with the necessary step. The interface should be inspired by augmentative serious game, so to be something very intuitive and which give a very good feedback even to a non-professional. We see in the next slide what are the current choices for the project to reach this goal. For acquisition device, we selected the emotive epoch. It is a device very simple to use. It is the device we saw in the previous demo by Roberto, and it has 14 sensors, so it's a good compromise from a low-cost device and a quite flexible device. Probably at the end of the game, we will need much less sensor, 2-3 sensors. But obviously, in the first research phase, to have more choice, let us test various possibilities. And this is even a good choice from the point of view of the price, because it is about $300. And it is commercially available online. And for the interface and elaboration side, we are using Linux or Android tablet. Linux for the specific interface, the Android tablet for the high availability in the market and even the low price of that tablet too. So with this equipment, we started a feasibility test to see if we can gather some signal, if it is enough good for what we want to do, and if we can, and to see if we can set up a research environment to do some tests. So we have divided our setup in 4 parts. The acquisition device, which is the Emotiv we have just seen, a pre-elaboration box, which at the moment is a Linux PC, which is in the middle between the acquisition device and the effective analysis tool. This is needed, is desired to have a modular system, so we have a separate acquisition device and a separate elaboration device, and we can change the combination. And then we have a processing tool which can be different. It can be OpenVibe, MATLAB, or even an Android tablet, for example, an interface with the program we saw in the previous talk. The question we wanted to answer, this is, let's see, a dummy question to see if the whole research setup is working and we can get something, is to check if with an emotive epoch we can detect some evoked potential from with some type of elaboration. Now then we will see what it is an evoked potential. Let's see in detail in the next slide the various parts. The acquisition device, we already said it is a low-cost device, quite many sensors, so good for test. Dry sensor, so easy to wear. And it has a wireless connection, which is very good because we can put on the patient in the bed and have the acquiring device nearby, but not on the patient. From the more technical point of view, this is a good device because it communicates with the host with an HID interface, human interface device. This is a standard protocol in Linux, and so we don't need any particular device driver to acquire the signal. The only problem is that the data sent by the emotive epoch is encrypted with IIS encryption, and to get raw data we need to get the official SDK software development kit from Emotiv, which decode the data and make us available for our studies. Some projects exist, it's independent from Emotiv and unofficial, which take the Emotiv data stream and decode it in real time. It is called EmoKit, and it is an independent project. And this for the acquisition device. Then we have the pre-processing box, which is the module which makes independent acquisition and elaboration. In our setup, the acquisition box is a Linux PC which acquires data from the Emotiv. Here an interesting note: the kernel of Linux can read in native way the HID data, while the kernel of the Android tablet cannot do this. So it can be done with a bit of hacking work, but it's not the standard way to proceed. So one of the advantages of the preprocessing box is that we can get the data, decode it in some standard way, and then make it available via a TCP/IP stream. We can send it something like via internet, and so we are completely independent from what we want to do after this one. We can use for local elaboration or even send to a tablet and do something in the tablet. In the next slide, we see when we have the data decoded from the processing box and sent to TCP/IP via a data streaming, something like a web streaming, we can use this data in the way we prefer. We tested some solution, let's say the easier one. For example, OpenVib is an elaboration tool specialized in EEG data analysis. And this tool can read directly a data stream. So we can acquire data to OpenVib and do all the elaboration we want. Another solution is MATLAB, more for the research for the algorithm testing. MATLAB with EEG Lab Suite. MATLAB 2 can acquire from TCP/IP. Or we can send this data to an Android tablet. We tested this solution and we checked that we can do all the chain from data acquisition to the tablet. Or we can set up some quick test with, I used a Python language, but with the language we prefer. We can see in the next slide some example of the results we get. This is a data acquisition in real time from an emotive epoch through the processing box to a OpenVib visualization tool. In the next slide, we see the same setup, but the data is sent to EEG Lab, MATLAB tool. And with in this situation, we set up a nodeball paradigm test to check if we could get some evoked potential from the emotive epoch. This is a very simple test. That is, we show some casual events to a patient, and between these casual events, there is one event different from the other one. Whenever our brain detects an event, an unexpected event, there is a particular signal we can see in the EEG, which is called evoked potential. If we can detect this evoked potential, it means that the quality of the signal of an emotive epoch is quite low, but not so low that we cannot see anything. In particular, we can detect one type of signal from the emotive epoch. Then we will need to check if this is the best signal we can get, or if we can get other type of signal. We see in the next slide, this is the graph we have taken around a rare event. From the neurologist point of view, we expect that after a rare event, we see a particular curve in the EEG trace. In this case, we see that we after the rare event, which is at a sample 128, just the half of the graph, there is the rare event, and then we see that we have a significant signal, which is not noise. From this type of graph, what we can say? We can say that we have set up a measure chain from a low-quality EEG acquiring device to an elaboration. We used a consumer device, we used open source tools, and we tried to find out a particular type of signal. We have seen that we can see some type of signal. With this information, we can make available the acquisition chain and the elaboration chain to a neurological signal elaboration expert to verify if it is the real signal we want, and if the emotive epoch can give us other type of signal that can be interfaced to a software on a tablet to give some feedback from the patient to a program.
Thank you very much, Gianluca Moro. I have many questions, but maybe okay, there is a first question that I would like to take from the floor before taking Professor De Feo from Hamburg. So, you can introduce yourself, please, first.
Yes.
Thank you.
You know, we are especially interested in this modeling because the articulation of the von Wechsel chain of sensory and motoric, and the way you have explained before with the mute that was interconnecting in the chain, and what you just explained with the technology is a really intelligent cultural approach to solve real things inside the wetware, inside the body. So I think we have to thank ITU for inviting you here, and thanks Alexandra for arranging this presentation. I think it is exactly what we expect from the future. That is integrated technology using really basic tools to create intervention inside the body and solution in a e-health intelligent way. So thank you very much for this coming from so far by car to show that to us. It will certainly be recorded in the archives and will serve for further progress in worldwide sharing as you started today. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jérôme. There are any questions from the floor? If you can present yourself first and tell you where you are.
Thank you. Alexander Vasiliev, Russian Federation. I have a question, not a medical issue. I have a question concerning funding of your research and development. Is it simply budget from private organization, or you also get some support from your government? Thank you.
We have support from the University of Padova, the Center for Disability. No support from the government.
Maybe can you tell us if the funds, if I can add, to maybe support Mr. Vasilyev's question, are the funds enough first? Are you looking for more partners? Because we have here a representative from the Russian Federation. I don't know. Just throw you the ball. Mr. Vasiliev.
Yes, I said that I'm from Russian Federation, but it's interesting for me to know how studies are being budgeted, and when you answered that it was from the university, but there are two kinds of universities, or more, maybe more kind of universities. Some universities, like in Sweden or in Russia, they get funds from government, and then those funds transmitted for research and development. Others simply private universities. And is your university a private one, or it's government supported?
The university is a public university, and we have the funding from the university. The funding is quite small because this type of research is a bit unorthodox. This type of research usually is taken on with professional devices and whose cost is very high. Using a consumer device and proposing to use it in a pediatric ICU is seen as a very non-standard things to do. No one did this type of things, and so it is not yes, it doesn't come in practice, and it is left more or less as a research interest of just a small group. Mainly we are me, Roberto, some other professor from like Professor De Feo, and we have some support from thesists. Students we are getting their degree and which give their work to this project.
We take last one question after we give Mr. De Fer because it's online, and after we can come back with the questions. But okay, Dr. Jérôme.
Yes, I think you have maybe to extend as well the consequence of this research. It is the first real attempt I see in this forum to show that the remedy to some problem, I extend it now, some remedy to some problems that neuroscience is investigating through this special setting you've made, can help as well. Let's say, for example, recovery of tetraplegic using these same interaction techniques could prove as well to be entertaining and maybe promising. So I think maybe you could reframe and extend, and show that as soon as the EEG gives back this information that can result in an action. We are in the heart of semiotics, not so far from you in Bologna. You have Professor Umberto Eco. I think it's worth going to see him, showing him what you've done, and trying to get him to extend in his special words of semiotician what it means if we really can get this evoked potential to be converted in any kind of action coming out of the wetware of the human body. Then we have found another remedial services that doesn't use drugs, for example, that does not use acupuncture, for example, that use some kind of go and I try to find you inside the lock-in syndrome and come out, and etc. So my suggestion, you may be worth going to medical semiology is a domain that Umberto Eco has not written so much about. Maybe thanks to what you presented, he can bring one of these, well-constructed article in the Italian scientific press and maybe more general press. Thank you.
Thank you for the suggestion.
So I would like now to give the floor to Professor Vito De Feo, that has been patiently waiting. So, Mr. De Feo, if you can hear us, you will have the floor. And thank you for being so patient and joining from Hamburg. You have the floor.
Thank you for the invitation. I will join you. I'm very happy to join you. And I'm following this kind of project since several months, I guess 6 months. And I find it very, very fascinating project and still very ambitious project, because there are several reasons. For example, the impact of this kind of project on the life in any kind of study of the coma or some other, any kind of impairment, for example, for tetraplegic, as the last person told, is very, very important and very, very impressive. I mean that the problem of communication when a person cannot use any muscles, then, for example, cannot use muscles to move the eyes, or cannot use muscles to speak, or any other kind of muscles, is a very big problem, not only for the person, but for the relatives, and the other people that are near the patient, for example, the medical staff. And it is proof that in this situation, when you work in some report in the hospital, there is a burnout syndrome for the workers. For example, the nurse that are there or the other medical staff have very big problem because they cannot understand the needs of the patients. So to solve this problem of communication will be a very big impact on the quality of life of a lot of people, not just patients. About the project, I find that it is very ambitious, because actually, as Dr. Moro said, the idea of Dr. Mancini is quite amazing, but very, very difficult, because we cannot understand the neural code that we have from the electroencephalographic recording. And this is a very big open question now in all the neuroscience world, and how to recognize from electroencephalographic recording what's the behavior of the patient, what is the will of the patient, what the patient wish to communicate. Actually, the problem is that a lot of time we cannot know what is the level of consciousness of the patient, and we can just imagine that a patient could have some kind of consciousness, and he wish or her wish to communicate us some will, but we cannot be sure. Then the first stage should be to understand what is the level of consciousness of the patient when this is not very clear. For example, for tetraplegic people, you know that they are perfectly conscious, but for people that are in coma or in locked-in syndrome, as Dr. Mancini said, you cannot know if there is the presence of some thinking inside their brain. And the signal that you can record, from the brain are very, very difficult to understand. So the problem is to understand the neural code. Neural code actually is not very scientific definition, because neural code is referred usually to the communication between neurons. I'm going to call these just the electroencephalographic code. And as Dr. Moro said, this is very difficult, but we have some instruments. For example, we have the P300 evoked potential, the P3B evoked potential. In addition to the usual spectral analysis, for example, we can understand the level of concentration, for example, measuring the alpha rhythm of the beta rhythm, and we can try to guess what is the level of consciousness of the patient. And when we understand that the patient has a level of consciousness sufficient enough to communicate, we can try to understand on which stimulus he or her is more concentrated. For example, you can let to her some different voice, and or let him to, or let her to see different images, and depending of the amplitude of the evoked potential, you can try to understand if a stimulus is very important or not important. This could be a very big result, because in this way you can insert a sort of binary communication with the patient, and you can understand if he likes or she likes, or if he do not like or she does not like. This is not a very big, huge communication channel, but at that stage is very, very important. About the commercial brain-computer interface, I guess that this is a topic that all the world is investigating. The problem is very huge, because actually some experiments are possible with professional instruments than to remake the same experiments or the same recordings with just commercial brain-computer interface is very, very difficult. But as Dr. Moro showed, it's possible to try to think, to record some evoked potential and cognitive or other kind of evoked potential, or maybe that in future we can think to measure event-related potential too, then not just evoked, but related to a personal choice of the patient. For example, the patient could think to move an arm, or could think to move a finger, and he cannot do that because he's locked in. And it's possible to understand from other kinds of event-related potential the will, the intention to move. And this is very useful even for the patients in coma, that for patients that cannot move the arms or other limbs. In this way, for example, you can drive from the signal that are coming from the commercial BCI, you can drive some mechanical arm. And actually this is another development of this very, very amazing project. I'm very happy to join to this project and support with my students and with myself studies this kind of project. With this, I conclude my intervention, and if there are some questions, please ask me.
Professor De Feo. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
you have finished your... Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me? Whoops.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Well, did you finish your because it was not? It's your intervention concluded? Okay.
Yeah, my intervention.
Thank you very much. The audio was not excellent, so but we could follow you. But thank you very much for intervening from Hamburg and taking time to stay with us and contribute to this panel.
Yeah,
I have if there are no other questions, I would like to have to summarize the session. I have some consideration to make. The first one is that I think it's very courageous that some researchers get together and put a study on. Maybe it's a non-orthodox manner with low-cost solutions, with free and open software. I think it's very courageous to do so. I would like to congratulate you all to carry on study. And I think if I take the side from a victim, I could also be a victim and go to a coma status tonight when I go home. And to know that my family or even the doctor, the nurse can understand that I'm alive, but I'm locked in and I cannot even move my eye. I think it would be a huge relief for everybody. And so I'm very honored that you could come here and have a long drive, and you could be online and present from Hamburg. And I hope to be able to share with my colleagues in ITU, but also with the kind of representative that we have here today, the results. I think that maybe some synergies could be created, even maybe why not with Dr. Jérôme, Study Group 17, or the representative that we have here from Russian Federation. Why not? I think funds are always maybe an issue, to have funds available. From the public sector, from a huge university like Padua. I think when I was studying there more than 25 years ago, we were 70,000 students. I don't know now.
I think more or less the same.
More or less the same. So 70,000 students, it's a lot, and so we need additional funding. And from my side, I would like to spread the presentation that we had here tonight, and maybe even your contact, if you are available, to be shared with my colleagues that deal with e-health, and maybe one or two even with also some colleagues of the World Health Organizations. And here in Geneva, in Lausanne, we have some hôpitaux universitaires, so the university hospitals that maybe you can share your studies with. This is just some suggestions that I had in mind for your consideration. Mr. Dr. Roberto Mancin would like the floor.
Alexandra mi ha promesso che mi traduce le cose che sto per dire.
Alexandra promised that she would have interpreted for me what I'm going to say to you.
But I prefer to speak in English because
Excellent.
I I'm happy to be here, and I want to speak English because even if we are few, I understand that you have you are loving this project. It is very, very important for me because this project is not an academic project, but is my life. And I'm very happy to share my life with people who understand that is very, very important. I'm not trying to send a man to the moon, to the Mars. I want only to speak with my child that is severely brain injured. That is very, very easy. We have done a lot of work without money because we have a little help from Disability Center and from my department of pediatric in Padua, but are very, very little. And if you can help me, help Gianluca to share that dreams to other people, I think that you made me a great gift. This is what is the project. This is a research project about that. We asked 1,000 euro to our university to do a big work, but is too big the dream, and they didn't give us the money we asked. Don't worry, we are young. I'm 14 years old. I'm going to do it in 10-20 years. But if you can help us to come in Geneva in 2050 and to carry you that dream. Now it's a dream, but in 2 years maybe a collective dream, a working project. It is important because I like the motto of Padua University. It is in Latin, is Universa Universis Patavina Libertas. In English means liberty of Padua. Mass is about everything for all. It is old, very, very old, but we can do that if we are able to do a conscious matter with a G about $300 and with a tablet about 200. We can $200. We can do for a very low cost instruments very useful in all world, in Africa, in everywhere. if a child, it is a great big problem, because every day in my hospital there are a lot of children that cannot talk. It's important to do that as soon as possible, because maybe your sons, I'm sorry, I'm too happy now, and maybe that it's not easy to understand, but please help me to dream. Thanks.
We are a bit moved here on the podium, I have to say, slightly. Again, why not? So from my side, I'm committed to share this work with the colleagues of the sector. I will send my presentation around, and you never know. Here, you never know. We come to know good work is shared, a content can come up, some sponsor can come up. So I'm very glad, and I would like to take some questions from the floor if there are. Otherwise, I have many questions, but maybe I will ask them bilaterally afterwards. Otherwise, if there are no questions, I will maybe conclude the panel. And I would like to thank you again, Dr. Roberto Mancin and Dr. Gianluca Moro, for having driven from Padova today and reached Geneva on time. And I would like to thank all the remote participants, colleagues that have helped greatly. Roberto, Leonti here, and Inam here, and Thomas, and Mohammed, and Amal, and everybody. And I would like to declare these sessions closed. And thank you very much.